Hello, my name is Kimberlyn Slagle, and I am a doctoral candidate enrolled in Baylor University's EDD and Learning and Organizational Change program, where Dr. Karina Call is my advisor. I'm excited to share an overview of my problem of practice titled Supports, Attitudes, and Beliefs, a quantitative examination of factors related to teachers' collaborative data use in Louisiana K-12 public schools. This slide presentation summarizes key elements of my study, including the problem statement, key research in my literature review, purpose statement, two research questions, the theoretical framework, methodology, overview of study findings, implications, recommendations, limitations, and plan for distribution. The problem that this study investigates is that teachers are struggling to use data effectively, yet do not always receive school or district level support for decision making that results in increased student achievement. My literature review is organized in three sections: best practices for data use, using data to improve teaching, and factors associated with data use. In section 1, best practices, Bertrand and Marsh in 2015 describe the importance of addressing bias, prioritizing equity, and engaging in reflection during teachers' collaborative sense making. Mondanak and Goomer in 2016 provide best practices for cycles of inquiry, and O'Connor and Park in 2023 explore the role of purposeful collaborative data use that drives engagement with additional data sources of evaluation of impact. In section 2, Improving Teaching, Datnow and Park in 2018 link teacher data use with continuous improvement, challenging beliefs, and promoting student growth. Marsh and colleagues in 2015 found that relationships during collaborative data use are related to changes in pedagogy. And Mananock and Schildkamp in 2021 assert that using multiple sources of data, including both assessments like test scores and non-assessment data like student interests, can support equitable student learning outcomes. And finally, in section 3, factors associated with teacher data use, Jimerson et al. In 2021 found that collaborative teams need dedicated time, a clear purpose, and intentionally supported mental models. Similarly, Schildkamp and Datnow in 2022 found that data coaches and principals can enable or hinder teachers' collaborative data use. Van Gass et al. In 2017 concluded that teacher attitudes toward data and beliefs about collaboration can increase the likelihood of independent data use. This quantitative cross-sectional survey design has three purposes. It examines the frequency of reported collaborative team actions with data, perceptions of organizational supports, attitudes, and beliefs. It examines the presence of statistically significant predictive relationships between perceptions of organizational support, attitudes, and beliefs. Beliefs, and collaborative team actions with data. And finally, it examines the presence of a statistically significant difference in perceptions of organizational support for learning to use data among 3rd through 8th grade English language arts, math, science, and social studies teachers based on years of experience. I examined two research questions in this study. Research question 1 asked whether perceptions of organizational supports for learning and from leadership, attitudes toward data, and beliefs about collaboration statistically significantly predict 3rd through 8th grade English language arts, math, science, and social studies teachers' collaborative team actions with data. Research question 2 asks if there's a statistically significant difference in perceptions of organizational support for learning between teachers with 15 or fewer years of experience and those with 16 or more years of experience. The theoretical framework that informs my approach to data collection and analysis is Wayman et al.'s 2016 Teacher Data Use Conceptual Framework, which includes 5 components associated with data use actions: organizational supports, including supports for learning about data from leadership and from computer data systems, competence in using data, attitudes toward data, and beliefs about collaboration that lead to actions. Elements in the framework not measured in this study include organizational supports from computer data systems and competence in data, teacher knowledge and practice, and student learning. My research methodology includes non-probabilistic, purposeful recruitment using the grade level and content taught as inclusion criteria. I collected data using Wayman et al.'s 2016 Teacher Data Use Survey distributed electronically via Qualtrics. My analysis of descriptive statistics includes the calculation of scale factor means for each variable, Pearson's R correlations for factor scales, reporting of the frequency for each item response category. My first analysis of inferential statistics is a multiple linear regression based on Wayman et al.'s 2016 theoretical framework. My 4 independent variables include 2 scales from organizational supports, supports for learning about data, and supports from leadership, attitudes toward data, and beliefs about collaboration. My dependent variable is collaborative team actions with data. My second analysis of inferential statistics uses a Mann-Whitney U-test to compare the median perceptions of organizational support for learning about data for 2 groups based on years of experience. My first key finding comes from my analysis of descriptive statistics. Given a scale of 1 through 4, with 1 representing strong disagreement, 2 representing disagreement, 3 representing agreement, and 4 representing strong agreement, the mean score for teachers' reported beliefs about collaboration was a 3.2, indicating slightly more than agreement, with statements describing positive beliefs about trust and respect while working in teams. Given the same scale, the mean scores for teacher perceptions of organizational support for learning about data was a 2.92, indicating slightly less than agreement with statements describing positive perceptions of help with or professional development for data use. Given a scale of 1 through 4 that represents frequency, with 1 representing never, 2 representing sometimes, 3 representing often, and 4 representing a lot, the mean score for teachers' reported actions with data was a 2.8, indicating more frequency than sometimes and less than often. Teachers indicated comparatively low frequency of engagement in 3 collaborative team actions with data, identifying additional data to offer a clearer picture of the issue, discussing preconceived beliefs about an issue, and revisiting the predictions made in previous meetings. Each of these actions is associated with equitable data use. My second key finding was that the model, including 4 independent variables, supports for learning, supports from leadership, attitudes toward data, and beliefs about collaboration, statistically significantly predicted and explained 34% of the variance in collaborative team actions with data. Of the 4 independent variables, 2 were statistically significant predictors of collaborative team actions with data, organizational support for learning, and beliefs about collaboration. My third key finding is that there was no statistically significant difference in median perceptions of organizational supports for learning about data based on years of experience. This study compares findings for descriptive and inferential statistics with previous studies that also used Wayman et al.'s 2016 Teacher Data Use Conceptual Framework to inform data analysis. Overall, my findings are consistent with previously reported findings for descriptive and inferential statistics. However, it's important to notice that studies examining collaborative data use are limited. Of the available studies, only one, Wayman and colleagues in 2017, examined teacher data use in Nashville and found that similar scale means to mine, with slightly lower reported means for collaborative team actions with data and organizational support for learning about data. Wayman did not use multiple linear regression to examine predictive relationships in this study. Chagoba, who examined teacher data use in South Carolina in 2021, reported mean scores that were similar to mine for attitudes towards data and beliefs about collaboration. In this study, Chagoba examined predictive relationships between similar independent variables, but with teacher actions in the local context as the dependent variable, and those include factors like goal setting and conferencing with students or parents. In her study, she did find that the model was a statistically significant predictor and explained 23% of the variance in teacher actions with data. Mikos and colleagues examined digital teachers' digital data use in Switzerland in 2023 and found that attitudes towards digital data use, competence in data use, and organizational support from computer systems predicted teacher actions with data in the local context. And again, those are actions that are similar to JACOPA studies. There were no available studies that compared groups based on experience, but the perceptions of teachers for support for data use were similar with means in Wayman et al. Study in 2015 and Wilkerson et al. In 2021. Again, no studies examined a statistically significant difference. My study holds implications for teachers, data coaches, principals, and future researchers. My study found that teachers engage in actions like looking at patterns and trends, but actions associated with equitable practices occur less frequently, suggesting that teachers need support for equitable data use actions. As a result, I recommend that teachers engage in collaborative inquiry cycles and incorporate reflection into these cycles during collaboration. If formal implementation is not an option, I recommend integrating these practices into informal discussions about data. For data coaches, my study found that teachers perceive them as helpful, but that the help is not always applicable to changing instructional practice, suggesting that data coaches may need to incorporate support for applying data intentionally and equitably to instructional decision making. As a result, I recommend that data coaches adopt formal collaboration structures that incorporate field testing and cycles of inquiry. My study found that teachers generally hold positive perceptions of principal actions, but that principals may not consistently make sure that teachers have plenty of training for data use, suggesting that principals need to determine data coaches' capacity building needs. As a result, I recommend that principals implement a formal collaborative structure that supports capacity building at both the teacher and leader level, like teacher collaboration, clusters, PLCs, and at the leader level, instructional leadership teams. I also recommend supporting reflective practices. For future researchers, my study highlights the need for additional examination of collaborative actions and sense-making during data use. As a result, I recommend additional studies that employ mixed methodologies, that include multiple linear regression, and that focus specifically on collaborative data use. In addition, I recommend studies that examine the role of the principal as mediator for collaborative data use. The limitations in my study include the following. First off, there were a couple of limitations with the study itself with Likert type responses and undefined frequency terms like sometimes, often, and a lot. The validation study conducted by Foreign in 2020 found that 3 scales did not meet the acceptable threshold of 0.80 for content validity. The Louisiana Department of Education implemented a new teacher evaluation system that incorporates analysis of student work, and this shifted district willingness to participate in a study that focused on their support for teacher data use. And there were also differences in the composition of the population of Louisiana teachers and the composition of the teachers participating in my study. There were limitations on the number of emails I could send out at one time. I made an error when entering items for the competency scale into Qualtrics, and as a result, I was unable to confirm that respondents noticed the shift in response choices, and that caused me to remove the scale from the study. Finally, my distribution plan. Each year, thousands of Louisiana educators attend the Teacher Leader Summit held annually in New Orleans. I will submit a proposal to present a session at the 2026 Louisiana Teacher Leader Summit and distribute my findings there, specifically targeting teachers, data coaches, and principals. In addition, I will seek publication in academic journals to distribute my findings to data coaches, principals, and future researchers. For data coaches, I will seek publication in the American Educational Research Journal and the Journal of Teacher Education. For principals, I will seek publication in the School Effectiveness and School Improvement Journal. Finally, I will seek informal and formal opportunities for professional collaboration with future researchers. In conclusion, thank you so much for your time and attention. Find my references here.